Welcome to The Explainer. We're jumping right into what looks like a sudden and pretty serious crack in the U.S.-India relationship. After years of building this close partnership, Washington just hit New Delhi with a double blow of tariffs and sanctions. It's putting a multi-billion-dollar relationship on the line.
And that really gets to the heart of the confusion, right? The U.S. is constantly calling India a vital strategic partner, but then its latest moves feel more like something you do to an opponent. So what is actually happening behind the curtain?
To really get the kind of pressure India is under right now, we have to break down the two separate hits it just took from Washington. This wasn't just a single move, it was like a coordinated campaign hitting on two different economic fronts at the same time.
So, on one hand, you've got these huge, sweeping tariffs that are going to hit almost every single thing India exports. And then, on the other hand, you have these super specific sanctions aimed at just 6 companies for their supposed dealings with Iran. They're two totally separate actions, but because they happened together, the message they sent was incredibly powerful.
And let's be totally clear here, 25% is a huge number. This isn't just some small tweak to trade policy. No, this is a massive tax, and it's designed to make Indian products way more expensive for Americans. It's a major, major escalation.
So you have to ask, why would the U.S. do this to a country it calls a partner? What's so fascinating is that the official reasons given go way beyond a simple trade disagreement. They actually point to much deeper frustrations in the world of geopolitics.
If we look just at the tariffs, the U.S. basically has a whole laundry list of complaints. You've got a trade deal that's been stuck in limbo for years. There's obvious frustration with India doing more and more business with Russia. And then there are these accusations that India's trade practices are one-sided, all while you've got pressure building back home in the U.S. to protect American jobs.
This quote from the White House, it just cuts right through all the diplomatic jargon. It's a blunt, unmistakable signal that from Washington's perspective, India's strong relationship with Russia, a major U.S. adversary, is a huge problem. It's a direct challenge to the way India conducts its foreign policy.
Now, switching gears to the sanctions on those 6 companies. For this, the U.S. is using a very specific legal weapon. It's called the Iran Counter-Proliferation Act, and it basically gives the American government the authority to punish any company, anywhere on Earth, if it decides that company is helping Iran get around international sanctions.
And the accusations themselves are pretty serious. The U.S. is claiming these 6 firms were part of a really sophisticated shadow network designed to sneak around sanctions. We're talking about allegations of importing and selling Iranian oil, using fake shipping documents routed through places like the UAE and Singapore, and moving over $220 million in illegal trade.
This timeline does a great job of showing how we got to this point. Back in the Obama era, with the Iran nuclear deal in place, India was a huge buyer of Iranian oil, and it was all perfectly legal. But when the U.S. backed out of that deal in 2019, it told partners like India to stop buying. India's government said, okay, we'll comply. But now, the U.S. is claiming that these private companies just found a way to keep the oil flowing under the radar.
Okay, so what's the real-world impact of all this? What's the actual economic damage from these decisions? Not just for the companies that were targeted, but for India's entire economy.
So interestingly, the U.S. State Department still hasn't released the full list of all 6 companies. But thanks to some digging by reporters, these 4 shipping and maritime firms have been identified as being on that list. These are the businesses that are now directly in the crosshairs.
And for these firms, well, getting sanctioned is absolutely devastating. It means they're completely shut out of the U.S. financial system. Any money or property they might have in the U.S. gets frozen instantly, and no American citizen or company is allowed to do any business with them. It effectively makes them outcasts in the international business world.
But the economic pain doesn't stop with those 6 companies, not even close. That bigger 25% tariff is expected to hit India's exports really, really hard. Projections are putting the potential loss somewhere between $5 and $8 billion a year. That's a huge blow to key industries like textiles, pharmaceuticals, and electronics that rely heavily on the American market.
All of this, as you can imagine, puts India at a major strategic crossroads. This is way more than just a simple trade dispute. It's forcing New Delhi to make some incredibly tough choices about its entire foreign policy and economic game plan. So what can it even do?
Well, India has a few potential moves it could make. On the diplomatic front, it can call in the U.S. envoy to demand an explanation. Economically, it can try to rush through trade deals with other partners, like the EU, to become less dependent on the U.S. It could even try to push for more trade in its own currency, the rupee, to get around the U.S. dollar. And of course, it'll have to investigate and crack down on these gray market networks at home.
You know, this official line from the U.S. State Department just perfectly captures the tightrope they're trying to walk. The message is crystal clear. We value you as a partner, but that partnership means you have to play by our rules, especially when it comes to our foreign policy on Iran.
And this, right here, gets to the absolute heart of the matter. This isn't really just about oil tankers or trade numbers. Many see this as a direct challenge to India's long-held foreign policy of non-alignment, its ability to be friends with rivals like the U.S., Russia, and Iran all at the same time. It seems like the U.S. is sending a new message. Those days are over. It's time to pick a side.
All of this leaves us with a huge, lingering question. Are we watching a moment that could redefine not just the relationship between India and the U.S., but also the entire world of oil diplomacy and India's own strategic playbook for years to come? The partnership has hit a serious, serious bump in the road, and you can be sure that what happens next is being watched very closely in capitals all around the world.